So, I couldn't sleep one night last semester, so I decided to rewatch an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I watched it once through as a kid, but I realized upon rewatching just the first episode that I missed a lot, particularly nuances in the dialogue, so I just had to make a video on it. Aside from communicating character and plot information, the dialogue in Episode 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender serves to establish a theme of war thrusting adulthood upon unprepared children, and emphasizes the gap in time between Aang and the other characters as a gap between children of peace and children of war. Let's start by examining Sokka's speech and behavior. The episode opens with Sokka and Katara fishing, which is in itself odd the two unaccompanied children would be hunting for the tribe, but we're talking about the dialogue. The first time I watched the show as a kid, I didn't understand the inclusion of Sokka's sexist dialogue, leave it to a girl to screw things up. The line, however, is telling as to how Sokka views masculinity in the absence of male role models, as all the men in the village have left to fight in the war. He feels he needs to belittle a girl for being a girl and attributes Katara's perceived uselessness to her sex. He needs to assert his role as man of the tribe, and this, unfortunately, is the only way he knows how. In another scene, we see Sokka lecturing a group of little boys about their responsibility to protect their tribe, which is completely unprotected in a time of war. He attributes this responsibility to their manhood, asserting that the role of a man is to protect the tribe. However, the speech is simple and formulaic. Likely, these are not his own original thoughts, and he is instead repeating what has been told to him, that he must take on the overwhelming role of being the man of the tribe. However, it is painfully obvious that Sokka is not yet a man. Even in the first scene, Katara is visibly skeptical of Sokka's claim that he will catch the fish, suggesting he may not be as good at fishing as he might imply. During their argument, she accuses him of, quote, playing soldier, a blunt but fair mockery of his failure to live up to the role of an adult. It only adds to it that he seems to equate bossing his sister around with leadership, and is often portrayed as being goofy when he's not trying to be. He even has a lopsided watchtower reminiscent of a child's fort, albeit much bigger. Because of the war, Sokka, a child, is in a position in which he must fulfill the role of an adult. Similarly, Katara must fill the shoes of adults absent because of the war. Her mother, we later find out, was killed during the war, and as she yells at Sokka, she complains that she works way too hard with chores while Sokka plays soldier because of the absence of their mother. When she goes penguin sledding with Aang, she says she hasn't done that since she was a kid, to which Aang replies that she still is one. The moment isn't given much pause, but the contrast between the way Katara and Aang see themselves is almost tragic. While Katara has not been allowed to see herself as a child for a long time, Aang is oblivious to the war. He is a child of peacetime, while Katara grew up in war. Consequently, one sees himself as a child and the other sees herself as an adult, not out of arrogance but out of necessity, shown when Gran tells Katara she can't even have one day off from chores to host the first known airbender in 100 years. Aang's peacetime viewpoint serves to highlight what is wrong with Katara's. Children are being forced to grow up in a way that was unnecessary in the past. Now let's look at Zuko and his conversations with Iroh over finding the Avatar. Iroh states that all of Zuko's forefathers failed to locate the Avatar, who, once again, hasn't been seen in over 100 years. Zuko says the failure of his ancestors is due to a lack of the proper motivation, which he has, restoring his honor. Zuko assumes this wild goose chase is his only choice instead of simply settling down and starting a new life. Immediately, the viewer realizes what a joke Zuko has been subjected to. Whoever gave him the condition of capturing the Avatar, who we later find out is his father, is simply making cruel fun of Zuko's apparent headstrong determination. The one who sent him on this quest doesn't expect Zuko to find the Avatar at all. However, Zuko refuses to acknowledge this and hangs on to the possibility of regaining the respect and reverence of his former status in society, a concern a child shouldn't have to deal with. This creates dissonance when Zuko gets naively excited when he sees the blue light of Aang exiting the iceberg. Though he did turn out to be right that it was the Avatar, it was sheer coincidence. The only information he had was that it could be from an extremely powerful source. He unhesitatingly orders that they set a course for it without solid evidence that it is in fact the Avatar, and is quite overexcited about it. Iroh realizes this and tells Zuko to calm himself, offering the more logical explanation that the light came from the Aurora Borealis, but Zuko dismisses it. More importantly, Iroh says, "We've been through this before, I don't want you to get too excited over nothing," implying that Zuko does this fairly often. He maintains a childish belief that he will be the one to find the Avatar, and gets passionate every time he thinks he's found a lead. The fact that Iroh has found a pattern and points it out to his face shows that false alarms because of Zuko's overzealousness are fairly common aboard that ship. And to top it off, Zuko has a total lack of self-awareness when it comes to this, shown when Iroh offers him calming jasmine tea, and he yells, "I don't need any calming tea," apparently totally unaware that he could not have sounded more like he needed some calming tea. His dialogue shows a childish lack of self-awareness. Like a child, Zuko ignores the advice of his obviously wiser uncle, and his line, "Go wake my uncle," to alert him of Zuko's discovery, indicates that Zuko is up and awake at an odd hour instead of resting because of his excitement. Normally, an official might appoint a grunt to do something like look out an hour outside his normal sleep schedule, but Zuko doesn't. Instead, he stands on the deck in his pajamas, naively hoping to find the Avatar. Now let's look at Zuko's training scene. Zuko's childishness is painfully pronounced, while his undeserved position of authority stands in sharp contrast. Like Sokka, Zuko feels a need to assert the authority circumstances given him, but doesn't know how to properly lead. Iroh's first critique of Zuko's firebending is that power in firebending comes from the breath, not the muscles. The fact that Zuko is trying to force things with physical might after hours of drilling the same set shows his frustration building. What's the first thing a kid starts to do when they feel frustrated? Throw what little weight they have around. Stomping, bawling, and waving fists, slamming doors, just moving more forcefully overall, and essentially that's what Zuko is doing here. Iroh's criticism shows Zuko's inability to control his frustration and prevent it from spilling over into action, a sign of lack of patience and maturity. When frustrated, children, and maybe people in general, are also prone to verbal exaggeration, which Zuko does when he says he wants to move on because he's not just ready, he's more than ready. In a jarring reversal of the relationship between teacher and student, Zuko screams at Iroh to teach him the advanced set, and Iroh cedes. The adult is subject to the clumsy authority of the child, which normally shouldn't happen. Not to mention that Zuko's cited reason that he needs to move so fast through his lessons is that he'll, quote, "need more than basic firebending to defeat an Avatar he hasn't actually set his eyes on yet." This is before the telescope scene when he actually sees Aang. He so obviously set himself up for disappointment, and yet is childishly oblivious to this fact, and he bounces back from his implied previous disappointments with childlike faith. The dialogue in the first episode of Avatar not only helps build character and establish relationships between them, but also contributes to setting, world building, and a potential theme. Not only does the Avatar have the responsibility to restore balance in terms of bringing peace to the four nations, but he must also restore the broken society that places the worries and responsibilities of adulthood onto children. And who is this Avatar with his ridiculous burden to shoulder? Of course, he's a child. So that's it for this video. Obviously there's a lot more to be explored in this vein, but I wanted to limit the scope to episode 1. But if you're interested in seeing more, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in another video. Bye! Super energetic. Super energetic and slow. Okay.